What is up, everybody? Welcome to Football Diehards. We are here for Week 14. I'm here with Jamie, as always, on a Sunday. Jamie, you looking forward to Week 14 here?
Sure thing, sir. I there's so much going on too. I mean, we still got news that we're waiting to come in, and I want to play like nine different running backs. So this is gonna be a challenge this week. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. Yeah, I can't wait to clear some things up, go through it game by game, as always, talk some updated ownership. So I think it should be a fun show. And yeah, I've not made any lineups yet, so I think this is going to help a lot. So I say we dig right into it. We'll start with the very first game. We have the Dallas Cowboys going against Washington here. Yeah, lots sticking out to me in this game. I guess we'll start with you on the Dallas side. What are you looking to hear the most?
Yeah, this is a fun game for sure. I think it's got really sneaky stack appeal. Because outside of Antonio Gibson, right now it looks like nobody else in this game is coming with big time ownership. So you can really kind of get some leverage on this game for GPPs. I think anybody in the passing game is viable. The big news we got to look for now, though, is Tony Pollard. So what I'm looking at now on Twitter is we're starting to see that he's doubtful now. So he hasn't been officially ruled out, and supposedly he's pushing to play. But I mean, if he's out, Zeke is another running back that which I'm just adding to this giant list of running backs that I want to play. And that he's kind of priced in that range of everybody else in the low 7,000s, kind of with Fournette, a little bit below Camara, and above the $6,000 guys. But I mean, on FanDuel, he's 6,900, and I think you would have to play him there. What do you think of this game?
Yeah, I mean, I like a lot of pieces, like you mentioned. I think the Pollard news is going to be something to really look out for because, of course, if Pollard plays, I really have no interest in Zeke at 7,300. But yeah, if Pollard's out, I'm going to have a decent amount of Zeke because, yeah, great matchup against Washington, going to get the majority of the touches. So that's something very important to note there. But yeah, it looks like game time decision. So I have to see. We'll probably find out within the next couple, like the next hour or so here. So. And then on top of that, yeah, I'm with you as well. I think CeeDee Lamb's interesting. He's coming in at the ninth projected highest owned wide receiver, 7,200. Are you going to be stacking up this game with Dak Prescott and Lamb and guys like that?
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, Gibson's going to get serious ownership on the other side of Washington. And I think a good way to leverage him is that Dallas passing game, which no individual piece other than Lamb that you mentioned is coming with any kind of like high ownership. So I think like a Dak Cooper Lamb is enough leverage off Gibson to really get you some high upside stuff. And you want to go even deeper. Dalton Schultz is there too, but I like the receivers in this one more than him.
Yep, and on the Washington side, you mentioned Gibbs said he's coming in at the fifth projected highest on running back, and rightfully so. We seen that McKissick looks like he's unlikely to play. Gibson 6K just seems way too cheap here, so I'm going to be pretty high on Gibson myself. As far as Gibson, I think that's about it on the Washington side. Ricky Seals Jones was somebody that stuck out earlier in the week, but there's like so many cheap tight ends that I like that are like a lot cheaper. So I'm probably not going to get to Ricky Seals Jones this week, but he was somebody I considered. But yeah, it's probably just Gibson for me on Washington or pass.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that as well. And even though technically Dallas is a good matchup for wide receivers too, I don't see myself getting to McLaurin at 7,000. I think there's just better per dollar plays, even outside of the stack, than him on this slate. So I'm kind of with you. Gibson for sure. Seals Jones is okay, but that's pretty much it for me from Washington.
Yep, looks like we're on the same page there with this game. We'll keep moving on to the next one. We have Jacksonville going against Tennessee. And yeah, not a ton sticks out for me. I guess one guy that does stick out a little bit is going to be Julio Jones, 5,400, coming off the IR. I just don't know if I can trust him, especially in cash. Don't see myself going there, but he is very, very cheap. There's still no A.J. Brown. They got to throw the ball to somebody. And on top of that, it's a really good matchup against Jacksonville. So I think I'm going to have some Julio Jones. I do think there's some risk, of course, but it's really hard to ignore this price tag. What are you doing with Julio Jones and any other piece you like in this game?
Definitely have Julio and GPP at 5,400 in that matchup against the Jaguars. They're desperate for playmakers on that team right now. So I think as long as he's healthy, which they've given the indication that he is, with him, you never know. But as long as he's healthy, I have no problem using him in GPP. I think you're right that it's such a long layover and kind of such a lost year for him that's tough to go there in cash. I wouldn't argue it. If he fit as a last piece and you wanted him there, I wouldn't say he's a bad play, but I think he's just too volatile for cash. And yeah, I don't really have any interest in anybody else on the other side here. I think if you're playing Julio and GPP and you want to bring back, you can use Robinson, but there's other running backs I like a lot more than him.
Yeah, this is a game where like nothing sticks out besides Julio. So yeah, Julio is coming in at the 8th projected highest owned wide receiver at about 12%. So yeah, looking forward to having some Julio Jones. We'll see if he does good today. We'll move on to the next game though. Not much there. Seattle going against Houston. We'll let you kick it off. What are you looking at on the Seattle side? And then I'm assuming you're looking at nothing on the Houston side like me.
I am looking at nothing on the Houston side, that is for sure. I love Wilson, Lockett, and Metcalf stacks in GPP against Houston, who was allowing the third most yards per play this year. Just with their running back in a shambles again. And now Peterson's out after they signed him. I don't know what they're going to do there, so I'm not really touching that. But yeah, I love that passing game, and then of course the defense at 3,100 is scrolling down here right now. I assume they're the highest owned. Haven't found it yet, but yes, there they are at the top, and by double, the next highest owned in Carolina. So if you can get the 3,100 for their defense, they're probably a pretty good cash play that you want on DraftKings.
Yeah, I totally agree there. Yeah, I'm finding myself like paying up into like the mid range, like 3K on defense this week, and they're definitely one I'm looking at. And I'm with you. Lockett and Metcalf are two guys that really do stick out just based off the price point and the matchup. Lockett 6,700, Metcalf 6,500. I think both are way too cheap there. Not too high owned. Metcalf coming in at about 9%, Lockett coming in about 8%. So they're not even the top 10 there. So you're not a ton of people going to him this week. Yeah, I like him. I mean, the price tag's too cheap there, but outside of that, there's not much that sticks out in this game. Like you said, on the Houston side, there's absolutely nothing. If anything, it would be Cooks, but I'm not too excited about playing Cooks this week. So yeah, it's Metcalf and Lockett for me.
Yep, same with me. And it makes for a fun GPP too because they're not overly expensive, so you can get some interesting pieces around him. Chalk, no chalk, doesn't really matter. But I like that one.
Yep, for sure. We'll move on to the next game. We have Las Vegas going against Kansas City. This should be a fun game. I'll kick this one off on the Kansas City side. Yeah, so of course, the main guys, Tyreek Hill, 8,500, Travis Kelce, 7,400, Patrick Mahomes, 8,000. Looking at all those guys, don't mind stacking them up. We see that Tyreek Hill is coming in as the highest projected owned wide receiver at 21%. I like Tyreek Hill quite a bit this week. I think it's a great matchup. I love the price tag as well at 8,500. I think it's a really good spot for him and the Chiefs here. Any thoughts for you on the Chiefs? Is there any other player that I missed on the Chiefs? Are you looking at somebody else other than Kelce or Hill?
No, I'm not. And I'm kind of, on Friday when we talked, you had said that the build that you were looking towards is, paying up at running back with all the mid-tier wide receivers we had available. And I've kind of gravitated that way too. So it's very unlikely I'll get to Hill in cash, even with being the highest owned wide receiver. It's a little easier on FanDuel if you want him, but I'm kind of living in that mid-tier for wide receiver. But I mean, Hill has torched the Raiders over the past couple of games. So you got to figure this is a big game for both of these teams, and I would assume he's heavily featured as usual in this one. So I really like him.
Yeah, I don't have Hill in my cash line at the moment. If I am able to fit him, that'd be awesome. But if not, there are some other wide receivers that I do like that are a lot cheaper, and I'm fine with my cash build there. But on the Raiders side, you mentioned Josh Jacobs earlier in the week. You're really high on him. I like him as well. I think it's a great matchup. The Raiders are missing a couple running backs, so I think he's going to be the main guy for sure. And we talked about on Wednesday how we both weren't that high on Jacobs coming into the year because of the lack of pass catching ability, but he has went out there and kind of proved us wrong. Getting 9 targets last week. He had 4 targets in week 12, 7 in week 11. So they're throwing him the ball. He's going to be like the only running back playing today for the Raiders. I think he's in a really good spot here.
Yeah, I love him, and at 6,200, he's all but locked into cash. The only thing that'll come down to whether I do play him or not in cash is if it comes down to a decision between him versus Antonio Gibson. Hopefully, I have both, but that's a tough one. And if it comes down to that, I'm honestly not sure which one I'll go to yet. It's pretty much the same situation, really. Just a lack of backup there. Um, More involved in the passing game than usual due to the backups being out. So I think they're both in very similar profiles, both in pace games. So I would like to have them both at their price tags, but I don't know which one I'd pick if you're asking me to choose yet. I'd still lean Jacobs, I think. Where are you on like a either or on those? We've talked about both, so we can kind of go here now.
Maybe they're so close. I think I would have to go Jacobs as well, just slightly. I go Jacobs there, but it's really close. Probably a flip a coin there. But yeah, I like both as well. I'm gonna make a priority have a ton of both of them there. Speaking of like the ownership though, Jacobs is they're close in ownership. The Jacobs 13% and Gibson is 15%. So yeah, it's close. I think both are great plays though. Other guys on the Raiders I'm looking at is going to be Hunter Renfro. Waller has been ruled out, and Renfro has been that guy. 10 targets last week. He had 9 targets in week 12 as well. He's 6,100. He has been priced up 300, but yeah, great matchup against Kansas City here. So liking Renfro, and then also Foster Moreau, 4,000. They priced him up 1,300, which I don't like, but solid matchup here. Only 3 targets, 1 reception last week against Washington. I don't hate going back to him. There is a couple other tight ends I like that are cheaper, but maybe I think he can bounce back this week.
Me too, and yeah, me too. And he proved last week that he's not Darren Waller, but he is still a cheap tight end that could exploit a up tempo matchup. The Chiefs have struggled against tight ends, giving up the 8th most yards per play this year. But I'm with you. I mean, Renfro is such a good cash play in this at 6,100. I don't think he's been priced enough to where he should be. So he's definitely like high up on the list as finalizing into cash who I would want in this one.
Yeah, I like Renfro a lot. Looking at his ownership now, he's coming in at the 4th projected highest owned wide receiver at 15%, and rightfully so. But yeah, I really like this game. Was there any pieces we missed, or do you think we covered it all?
No, I think we're pretty good from this one. It is a good one to stack fully in GPPs too, and there's different ways to do it if you use the different pieces on Vegas.
Yep, for sure. We didn't even talk about it. Are you gonna stack up the Derek Carr side? Could you see yourself stacking up Derek Carr, Hunter Renfro, Maria?
I haven't done it, but you certainly can. This is they're underdogs, so you got to figure that they're going to be passing in this one. This is one where we could see Carr throw the ball 40 plus times, and such a
Yeah,
condensed
I think
offense. I mean, their receivers are terrible. Brian Edwards and Zay Jones can't get open. So if we do wind up with that, I mean, you would have to think it's Renfro and the tight end. So I do kind of like that as a cheap stack. You can pick expensive running backs with it.
yeah, it's such an easy stack there. I do agree. But we'll move on to the next game. We have the Saints going against the Jets. I'll let you kick this one off. What are you looking at on the Saints side?
This is I have way more vested into this game than I thought I was going to. I've been watching as we went along here, as the week went along, as more and more values have opened up. I was watching to see if Taysom Hill's ownership would suffer from it, and if people would start looking to pay up a little bit more. And it hasn't happened. He's still the highest owned quarterback on the slate. I'm not going away from that. The Jets have allowed the most yards per play, the 8th most rushing yards per quarterback to quarterbacks. And he's 5,600. And like I said on Friday, that he's averaged as a starter 23.7 DraftKings points per game. say what you will about him as a quarterback, but he is a fantasy goldmine with the rushing ability, and he's just not priced accurately. So he's definitely going to be my cash quarterback. Um, and Camara is the one that's killing me here because with all the running backs we've talked about so far, and the one other high price running back we have yet to talk about, there just doesn't seem to be room in my cash for Camara. I'm going overboard in GPP on him. But I mean, when you figure everything that's going on with him, he's 7,900. He's routinely higher than that when healthy. Um, Mark Ingram and Ty Montgomery are out. So he's pretty much got the Saints backfield to himself against the Jets, who have allowed the most fantasy points per game to running backs by far, and 22 touchdowns, which is silly through 12 games. So, I mean, the fact that he's not currently in my cash is destroying me right now. Where are you on him?
Yeah, I do currently have him in my cash build there, and yeah, you mentioned all the things, like everything is lining up for Alvin Kamara here. No Mark Ingram, I think that is absolutely huge, and then also you can't ask for a better matchup against the Jets here. So yeah, I do like Kamara quite a bit, and he is coming in at the fourth projected highest in running back, and I kind of think that's too low, only 16% for Alvin Kamara against one of the worst, if not the worst, run defenses in the entire league. So yeah, I'm very high on Camara this week. And like we talked about it Wednesday, potentially playing Taysom Hill and Camara in the same lineup. I don't love it, but I am doing that. It's just such a great spot for both guys. You mentioned Taysom Hill. He's underpriced. He's very underpriced. So yeah, I have both of them as of now. I'm hoping I can get like a Taysom Hill to Camara passing touchdown. That'd be awesome. But both guys rushing upside, both guys touchdown upside. I like them both quite a bit.
So let me ask you this, without revealing, without revealing your whole lineup here, to get him in, who isn't you're sacrificing? I mean, spoiler alert, we haven't gotten to the 4 o'clock games, but Eckler is the other top running back we're looking at. Are you losing him for Camara, you think, or are you kind of getting both of them in and value spotting other places?
No, I have both Kamara, Eckler, and then I have another guy in the 6K.
Okay. Yep.
And
Well,
then
that's
I'm paying I'm paying down at wide receiver and then tight end. Really punting at tight end, and then I'm punting down at defense a little bit, like mid 3K.
what I'm attempting to do as well. So, well, you've given me hope that you've found something that works. I haven't found something I like yet.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I like it. But like, we'll talk about Eckler for sure. But yeah, definitely Kamara though. I mean, the matchup's so good. It's hard to get away from it. If Ingram was playing, like, yeah, I'd probably get away from it a little bit. But since Ingram is out, I think that's huge.
Yeah, and we've talked before. I mean, preseason stuff. How I've never liked Camara with Taysom Hill as the quarterback because he didn't target him really in his 4 games as a starter last year in the passing game. But then again, they had Michael Thomas then, and they had other playmakers. They had Jared Cook was their tight end. Like they had guys that he could pass to out of that I formation. They just don't have that anymore. I've really softened my stance on that just because they need to give the ball to Camara. Like it can't just be the Taysom Hill show. Camara, if he's healthy, has to have the ball in his hands, especially with them like fighting now for the playoffs. So I'm okay with both of them.
Yep, for sure. We'll move on though to the next game, and we have Atlanta going against Carolina. What are you looking at on the Carolina side?
Not a whole lot. The interesting thing here is Cam Newton, I guess. And I really was kind of hoping that his ownership would drop a little bit with Taysom Hill being the other comparably priced one, but it still looks like they're the top two. So there's not even a ton of leverage on him in GPP. I would take some shots on him just in case, in whatever random GPP you're in, if he comes in lower owned than Taysom Hill and he outscores him, which is entirely possible in this matchup. You get a lot of leverage there, but he's carrying a significant amount of ownership himself too, so it's not as good a play as I'd hoped it would be.
Yeah, I think he's definitely a solid spot there. But I am going the Taysom Hill route myself. As far as other pieces in the game, I think DJ Moore 6,200 is a pretty solid spot here. He is gaining some ownership. Looks like he's the seventh projected highest owned wide receiver. Seems a bit underpriced here at this price tag. 10 targets back in week 12. Of course, no Christian McCaffrey. So I do think he is the best piece in the offense at the moment. Chuba Hubbard, 5,900. I just don't think I can get there. We talked about other running backs in that area around 6K. Gibson, Jacobs, guys like that. So I think I'm gonna kind of stay away from Hubbard this week, but he was one guy that did stick out. I think these Panthers have a great matchup against Atlanta, but don't know if I can trust Hubbard, especially when there's other great options around him.
Yeah, I agree. And I mentioned a running back earlier that was kind of in James Robinson. That's kind of the same mold. I mean, it's fine, but I think you're better served to just find that extra couple $100 for the Gibson Jacobs plays we talked about.
Yeah, and then on the Atlanta side, is there anything you like?
No, not particularly. Their offense is really sputtering right now. It's a very aggressive Panthers defense. I think they're a good play on the cheaper end at home against Matt Ryan, who is a statue in the pocket there. So yeah, no, I don't have a whole ton of interest in this game as a whole, but I do think the Panthers defense is a good GPP option.
Yep, I like that call for sure. Panthers D 2,800. I like it. We'll move on to the next game. I'm with you. Don't have a ton of interest in this one. The next game is going to be Baltimore going against Cleveland. I'll kick this one off. Nothing really on the Baltimore side, but on the Cleveland side, I do like a couple pieces. We touched on it Wednesday how David Njoku looks like he's not playing. Harrison Bryant's out, and it's going to open up a lot of things for Austin Hooper. He's 3,400, and the Baltimore is one of the worst teams against the tight ends. I believe they've given up like the third most DraftKings points to opposing tight ends. So I do like Hooper quite a bit at this price tag. And then also Jarvis Landry at his 5,400. He seems way too cheap. Last time he played Baltimore, 10 targets, 6 receptions, 111 yards, 19.1 DraftKings points just a couple weeks ago. And of course, they are missing a bunch of tight ends. So I think Landry and Hooper are both very cheap options that I do like this week. Anything that you like on the Browns? You like those guys as well, or what else are you looking at?
Yeah, you named it, and you basically broke that tight that tight end news to me on Friday night. And Hooper is currently my cash tight end, just because of that, and the matchup too. The Ravens have been a team we've targeted against with tight ends all year, giving up the fifth most fantasy points per game to the position. So at 3,400. I like that a lot. I am still going to tinker, just trying to see if Camara can fit in and if there are other cheaper guys at the position that we can look at as well below him. So if the money needs to come from there, it can. Like I'm not saying Hooper is a lock, but I do think he's the best cheap tight end uh, in that 3,500 and below range.
Yeah, I'm looking at the ownership right now. If I can pull it up to see where he's at, looks like Hooper is coming in the 11th projected highest owned 4%. That seems pretty low.
Yeah, it does. And I'm not seeing the other guy at all on here that we. No, he's below him at least too. Um, yeah, I think I expect that'll be a little bit higher than that, just because people are going to be savvy to that situation that they're in, and that's a tight end featured offense. They throw to the tight end there. So I mean, he's going to play 100% of the snaps, barring an injury. So I think that's just a rock solid cash play there.
Yeah, I like it a lot. But we'll keep moving on. Well, anything you like on the Ravens side, actually?
No, no, not particularly. And it sounds weird to say with Lamar Jackson heading them, but I mean, this is a slow defensive-minded game. The Browns are second in pressure rate. I think they're an okay defensive choice as well, with their chance to get sacks, even against a mobile quarterback like him. So no, I don't have any Ravens in any of my lineups.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think it's Austin Hooper is the most intriguing piece in this game. We'll keep moving on. We have Denver going against Detroit. And yeah, we'll start on the Detroit side. Is there anything that sticks out? Some crazy news in terms of the running backs. We see that Swift and looks like Williams is going to be out as well. So interesting news there, huh?
Yeah, I have a couple of sprinklings of Jamar Jefferson and how do you say the next guy's name? I mean, you were like the Google Voice guy with this last Friday.
I think it's like Ego Becke.
Igubeke. That's nice. All right. So they're calling him Iggy on Twitter. I think I'm gonna just stick with
I like.
that. So yeah, I have a couple of I think once or twice. I have five or six. I have six GPP lineups, and I think I sprinkled each one in once somewhere in there. But I don't really have a lot of interest in them, even at that price tag. I don't think running back is a place to get value on DraftKings this week. There's the tight ends, the defense, the quarterbacks, even. But we have Brock Wright, who is viable. $2,500. I mean, he's Hawkinson's backup. I know nothing about him from a metric perspective or anything like that. Denver is a terrible matchup. They've been with third fewest fantasy points to tight ends, but he is 2,500, and he allows you to do so much. So, I mean, if he's the one that fits, you get no argument from me.
Yep, totally agree. If you need the salary, he is definitely somebody I'm looking at. I was able to fit Hooper into my cash line, so do have Hooper at the moment, but don't really see that changing. But yeah, I do have some Brock Wright in tournament lineups, just so cheap. It allows you to do so much and allows you to get some good pieces. Uh, yeah, for me, I think I'm just going to stay away from the running backs in terms of the Lions running backs here. Like you said, bad matchup. I think it might be like a committee here. They were talking about using, all three guys. So I think I'm going to stay away here. And like you said, there's so many great plays at running back. I don't want to try to get a little crazy here with Igu Beke guys like that. So maybe one of them can go off, but I just don't know which one. That's the thing.
Yeah, that's the problem, really, because you really don't. I mean, they're not going to tip their hand at that anyway, and even if they do, there's no way to know how they're going to shake that out, and it's not a good matchup anyway. So, um, it's like I said, it's 4,000. It's a minimum price tag. It helped me fit like a big Bills stack with a couple of other expensive players in there too, which is why I kind of slotted one of them in as the last piece. But that's pretty much the extent that I would use them.
Yeah, for sure. Like in a tournament lineup, if one of those guys go off and you can get those, expensive guys to go off as well, yeah, I definitely do like that. But Eagle Becke is coming in at about 3% ownership. That is the 21st highest projected owned. And I'm looking to find the other Lions running back, and there he is. Kabinda is coming in at 0% ownership. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, it should be an interesting thing to look at there. Next game, we have the Giants going against the Chargers. Yeah, I like a lot on the Chargers side. Justin Herbert, 7,100. We talked about it on Wednesday. I think no Keenan Allen's going to hurt him a tad, but it's still not going to scare me away from him totally. And at cash, like I said, I'm going Taysom Hill at cash, but in tournaments, I do like Herbert at quarterback. He's just so consistent, 25.3 DraftKings points per game there. Austin Eckler is somebody that I like a lot, 8,300. I think since there's no Keenan Allen, I would not be shocked if Eckler was able to go out there and get 10 plus targets. I think he's gonna have a big day, especially with no Keenan Allen. Mike Williams is probably one of my favorite plays on the entire slate. No Keenan Allen's going to open up a lot of things for him, and I think he's way too cheap, especially without Keenan Allen. This was a guy that was 8,100 in week 6, 7,700 in week 8, and now he's 6,000 without Keenan Allen. And then also Guyton is somebody that I also do like at 3,400. And I do have, it's crazy, I have 3 Chargers in my cash build at the moment. Am I crazy?
Oh, that's how you fit Camara with Guyton. I was wondering when we're gonna
Yeah.
figure that one out. Yeah, no, I don't think it is at all. Um, you mentioned pretty much all the relevant stuff, so I'll just throw a couple of extra things in there. Eckler also, besides the passing role, he's actually, I mean, you don't think of him as that bruising like red zone back, but he's actually 8th in the NFL in carries inside the 10. So I can't imagine he doesn't crush this defense, which pains me to say. And then Mike Williams, like you said, he's priced as if Keenan Allen was playing. So, he's not only the big play guy there, but I mean, he's probably going to play some slot and get the volume passing as well. So, yeah, he's locked in for cash. He probably should be the first person you enter if you're starting from scratch and building a cash game. And I'll just throw Jared Cook too. He's another cheap option. Giants are terrible against the tight end. And he should at least see a moderate target boost with Keenan Allen out. Everybody will because he's the target guy. But yeah, everybody on the Chargers is fine. And then just one last thing, they are cheap, the defense on FanDuel. So if you're playing cash on FanDuel, I would do the Chargers defense at 4,300.
Yeah, because on DraftKings they're like 4,300 as well, and they're really expensive
Yeah,
there. Um,
yeah, they're priced out
Mike
there.
Williams. Oh yeah. Mike Williams coming in at the second projected highest owned wide receiver at 18%. I think that's probably low, right?
Yeah, I would think so. I would imagine he's the highest owned wide receiver. I mean, people know, people that play DFS know what's happening with Keenan Allen, what his body missing from the field brings to the rest of that offense, and they also have seen the Giants play. So, I expect Williams will be the highest owned wide receiver on this slate.
Yeah, and then Guyton is coming in at the 16th highest own at 8%. So on the Giants side, is there anything that sticks out to you? I know you talked about Barkley. Barkley's price being a little bit too cheap, right?
Yeah, there's a bit actually. I mean, it's weird to say because their offense just looks broken right now, and I was really hoping that we'd at least get to see Jake Fromm at quarterback, just at least see if he had anything. Like we know Mike Glennon doesn't, but it looks like they're going with Glennon, which hurts to me. But yeah, Barkley is way too cheap. The Chargers are a total run funnel offense. As good as they've been against stuffing wide receivers, they've been equally bad against running backs. Barkley has constant efficiency issues that he shows, but he does have the snaps. As soon as he came back, he immediately got 87% of the snaps. So if the Giants figure out that, especially without their starting quarterback, that he's the one they should be featuring in this offense, he could really pay off some upside with that $6,000 price tag. And it looks like Sterling Shepard might finally be back this one. So he, I think, has very, very low owned GPP appeal if you are running a Chargers stack in GPP because he is the possession receiver. He was averaging over 8 targets a game before he got hurt. So I think you can use him as well if in GPPs as a bring back Chargers stacks.
Yeah, especially considering the price, 4,600. That's really
Yeah.
cheap for Shepard. And yeah, like you said, Barkley's really cheap, 6,000, and he's coming in at the 10th projected highest on running back at 6%. So, yeah, not going to get there in cash, but I think for tournaments, Barkley makes for a very intriguing option. I don't think a ton of people are going to be on him this week, which is interesting considering the price.
Yep, and he's a little different, because we talked about Gibson and Jacobs in that range, and I do absolutely like them better than Barkley. But it's not like the Chuba Hubbard and James Robinson where I just don't see them outscoring those guys to warrant differentiating. I think Barkley can if the game goes right for him and if they can, their defense can keep it a little bit close. So I do think he has that ability to be like the GPP leverage play off those guys.
Yep, totally agree there. Was there any other piece you wanted to touch on? We talked about a lot in this game.
More than I thought we were gonna, but yeah, no,
Yeah.
I think we pretty much covered this one. I'm not interested in any other Giants. Galladay hasn't shown anything, and it's a terrible matchup for him. So no, this is pretty much Barkley, a little bit of Shepard on the Giants side, and go nuts on the Chargers.
Yep, I definitely did go nuts, so hopefully it works out. We'll move on to the next game, though. We have San Francisco going against Cincinnati. What are you liking in this game here?
Well, I got to reassess this because Debo Samuel's back. I think officially, right? We saw him. He got ruled in.
I believe so.
Um, Yeah, so honestly, as good a player as he is, that kind of muddies things for me with the San Francisco plays. I think that honestly takes Jeff Wilson off the board for me, even at his price. Not on FanDuel. FanDuel, he is like so mispriced. You can't avoid him at all. At 4,900, he's at 4,400 on DraftKings, which is okay. I mean, it's a pure price play at that point. I would rather have him than those Detroit guys we talked about. But with Debo back, I think that really just spreads this San Francisco offense a little bit too much for my taste. And Wilson wasn't great the last time Eli Mitchell was out. They featured Debo in the run game, and I imagine they're going to do the same thing because it worked. Um, and Cincinnati is a lot more prone to the player archetype of Debo Samuel than the between the tackles of Jeff Wilson. So I'm not really on anybody on San Francisco anymore, other than maybe Debo as a GPP pay up. What are your thoughts on that? And then what about Cincinnati?
Yeah, I was kind of hoping Debo would be out, honestly, because I was planning on going right back to Brandon Ayuk at 5,800. This was a guy that I was very high on last week. He scored 8.5 draft. It's not like he did terrible, but I was kind of expecting a lot more with no Debo, and I was planning on going right back to him, but just can't do that now. You touched about Jeff Wilson Jr. Yeah, I just don't think I'll get there. I just like the other guys in like the 6K range. I don't really see myself having to save that much salary because there's a bunch of cheap tight ends I like. There's cheap wide receivers I like. I don't really see myself going down and getting like a Wilson here. So yeah, I think I'm with you. I think I'm going to completely fade the San Francisco side here. But like you said, if anything, Samuel. But I don't have a ton of interest in him at that price tag as well. On the Cincinnati side, yeah, not a ton of interest in either of these guys as well. Jamar Chase is interesting, 6,900. T. Higgins, I like him more when he's like 5,400. He's now looking like he's going to be priced correctly, but T. Higgins has been going off the past couple weeks. But the price tag is scaring me away a little bit. So, yeah, I think this is a game I probably just stay away from. Do you like anybody on Cincinnati?
I'm kind of with you, and we predicted this, by the way. We predicted Higgins was the buy low guy based on his, target share and end zone share matching Jamar Chase's early in the season. So good on us for that. But
Yes.
yeah, it's San Francisco is missing some key defenders, which gives Cincinnati a little bit more appeal. But like you said, there's not any real key value spots that I think to target in this, and their front line is still intact, and they could win the battle. Cincinnati's offensive line is not good, so even with like the heightened, the pace and Burrow throwing a lot in this game, I think they could kind of neutralize that with their pass rush. So I don't have much in this game at all, really.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Kind of surprised at the projected ownership on T. Higgins. It looks like T. Higgins is coming in at 20, the 21st projected highest on wide receiver at 6%. Kind of thought more people would be on him. The guy's been just going off as of late.
Yeah, I think the reason really is probably because you're getting Mike Williams 400 less, you're getting Hunter Renfro
Yeah.
300 less. Those are the guys in that range that people are looking at. So, I mean, the only way we're really seeing him in cash lineups is if you're playing all three of those guys. Even DJ Moore, who you mentioned, is less than him, and he's, I would assume, more appealing than T Higgins at 200 less. So I think that's kind of the reason for that. But it's a weird one, honestly. That price tag is definitely in an odd range.
Yeah, for sure. I think this is the first time has been 6,000. So yeah, priced up 600 from last week. It looks like. But move
Yeah.
on to it looks like the last game here. We have Buffalo going against Tampa Bay. I'll start on the Tampa Bay side. I think Fournette's really interesting at 7,400. Really good pass catching upside. On paper, not the best matchup in the world, but I'm not too scared of this Buffalo run defense. And then also looking at Chris Godwin, who is 7,100. Don't have him in my cash bill, but I think he makes for a very good tournament play. Would not hate him in cash as well. I just was not able to get there. But yeah, really do like Fournette and Godwin. Those are going to be the two pieces I like on this Tampa Bay side. Gronk's interesting. Gronk is actually coming in. I think he was like the projected like highest owned tight end, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he is. He's coming in at 11.59%. I'm not getting there personally. I've been riding the Gronk train the last couple weeks. I think this is where I'm going to hop off, especially considering he's now 6,000, which is definitely getting up there. But I still think he's a good play. Just a little bit too pricey for me, and I'm paying down at tight end mostly this week. So mostly Godwin and Fournette for me on the Buccaneer side. What are you looking at on the Buccaneer side? Are you on those same guys, or are you looking at somebody else?
That's my two also. I certainly don't argue Mike Evans with Tre'Davious White out. I mean, it's a much better matchup. But yeah, those are the two guys I'm looking at for sure on Tampa Bay. And if you're doing Bills stacks, which I'll talk about in a second, I think those are the most logical bringbacks for sure. Without Antonio Brown, Godwin has averaged over 21 DraftKings points per game, so it doesn't really matter the matchup. You can lock him in for high volume, high upside in pretty much any format. So as far as the Bills go, this is interesting to me because this is my favorite team to stack this week. Um, it's just kind of a matter of how you do it. So Josh Allen and Diggs is going to be very popular, and rightfully so. I mean, the Tampa Bay secondary is beat up. They're a pass funnel team. This game has the highest over/under on the slate. So I mean, Bills stacks have really the tendency to be the highest stack here. Um, with Allen and Diggs being so popular, though, like you need another piece to this to really kind of get it to be a bit different. And actually, the one that I like the most is Dawson Knox. I think we're seeing Emmanuel Sanders and Cole Beasley really kind of dip down. And a big part of why the Bills have been losing is I think they're just old, honestly. And that's what we're seeing from them. You know, they're both in their mid 30s now, which as a 41-year-old, I hate saying that they're old, but they're just not effective anymore. They can't get open. Even Beasley out of the slot, he hasn't had over 50 yards since week 8. He can always get that if he gets the volume, but Knox, on the other hand, we've seen getting now 19 targets over the last 3 games. Tampa Bay has given up the third most catches to tight ends. So he used to be one of those touchdown or bust guys. I don't think he is anymore. His snap share, he was 98% last week. So I think they're going to lean on him a little bit more. And I think he's the best kind of secondary player to those Allen Diggs stacks. And that's the way I'm going in mine as well.
Yeah, I like that call. I think it's pretty sneaky as well. Yeah, I like Josh Allen. I like Diggs. Beasley, I think is fine. I think he's nice and cheap. I think those are the three guys I'd look at. Looks like Knox is coming in at the 7th projected highest owned tight end. And I did see that Mike Evans is actually coming in at the 3rd projected owned wide receiver. That's up there, 19% just about for Mike Evans. And then Chris Godwin is 14%, and Stephon Diggs is 14%. So these wide receivers are very high owned in this game.
Yeah, and if Evans' ownership holds there, that's all the more reason for me to go to Godwin. I think he's the better play. And if he's less ownership, that's a bonus to me.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm definitely on the Godwin side rather than Evans. But yeah, I think that is about it. Anything else for this game?
Um, no, I think we've gotten pretty much everything. I'm not interested at all in the Bills running backs. You're not either, right?
No.
Yeah, I didn't. I mean, this is a terrible. Josh Allen is the running back anyway, and this is a
Yes.
awful, awful matchup for them against the Bucks. So I don't really see any reason there.
Yep, for sure. We didn't talk a ton about defense. We threw a couple out there. I think Seattle is the one I was looking at. I think you mentioned the Browns defense as well. What's your favorite defense this week?
I think if you can get to Seattle, that they're the one that I would go to in cash at least, and definitely with their ownership looking so high, you want to deviate off of them in GPPs. I mentioned the Panthers and the Browns. Those are probably the two cheaper options that I would look to go to. The furthest down I think I'd be willing to go is the Texans on the other side of that Seattle game. Seattle's offensive line isn't the best, and Texans actually have a better sack rate than the league average, believe it or not. They just give up a lot of points. So, I mean, you're not expecting them to hold Seattle to 8, 19, 17, 20 points, but if they can get 3 sacks and a turnover, I mean, that's good enough for 2400, especially in tournaments.
Yeah, good point. I typically don't pay up at defense, but I am a little bit this week with Seattle, and it never seems to work out, but hopefully it does work out today. Any other final thoughts on the slate or anything else you'd like to add?
No, just we'll get the inactives in about half an hour, and we still got some key plays to watch out for there. I'm just trying to think of the most relevant ones, just to kind of give our listeners specific names to keep an eye on. Pollard obviously is one. I mean, if he's out, Zeke is got a full workload in the passing game as well, so he's a tremendous one. Who are the big ones I'm missing though outside of him that we're kind of waiting on right now?
Pollard was the biggest one, I think.
Yeah, I would think so too. Also, the one thing I'll throw out again, if you're playing not just the main slate, if you're doing like the full Sunday night, Monday night thing, just remember one thing that Darrell Henderson was put on the COVID list, so you want Sony Michel in any lineups you have that include the Monday game.
Yep, good point there. But yeah, I think that is about it. We'll be back on Wednesday as always, or I mean, we'll be back on Friday actually. We changed it to Friday there. But yep, good luck to you, Jamie. Good luck to everybody. Hopefully, we make some money on the Sunday. So let's have a good week 14.
Yep, good luck, everybody.